560, The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. It only took hundreds of arrests and dozens of college campuses becoming no-go zones for Jewish students for the big guy, Mr. 10%, President Biden, to finally be moved to offer a statement. This was it.
Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But, neither are we a lawless country. We are a civil society, and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this because we are a big, diverse, free-thinking, and freedom-loving nation. In moments like this, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics. It's a moment for clarity.
Yeah, and there's your clarity. Sahar Tartan, she is a sophomore at Yale. She's a student leader for the Chabad there, and she's editor-in-chief of Yale, the Yale Free Press. She joins us now. Sahar Tartan, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Are you impressed with the words of the president?
I think he's in a tough position, but I will say that these protesters are not freedom loving.
Well, tell us about what they are, as you've witnessed on your campus there at Yale.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's all about not only the destruction of Israel, but like the destruction of the West writ large. Just a couple nights ago, my visibly Jewish Hasidic friend got called out by a protest attendee at Yale, and she said to him, the U.S. is a terrorist state, and this is on video. The protesters at Yale and at a bunch of other schools have been saying things like, Ilamaya, Ilamaya, Philistina, Arabaya. From water to water or from the river to the sea, Palestine is Arab. And that's certainly not democratic. It's a matter of the ethnic cleansing of Jews in the region. Not to mention all of the violence that's been happening at these protests, including a physical assault that happened to me, after which protest organizers protected the guy that assaulted me and blockaded me physically from confronting him.
What happened? What happened to you?
Sure. So I showed up to one of these rallies with a friend of mine, the same Hasidic friend, to record, and we were immediately profiled by protest organizers as Jews, and they stood in a line and linked arms to each other and blockaded both of us. Eventually, he and I got separated, and so we each had our individual blockades that were assigned to us and that were following us throughout the protest, standing in front of us and not letting us walk. And my blockade ended up cornering me between the blockade and the other 500 protesters who had encircled me and were running around me while protesting, and began to join in on the taunting, harassment, and accosting, waving things in my face, flashlights, keffiyehs, their middle finger, until one of them waved his Palestinian flag in my face and then jabbed me with it in my left eye. And when I tried to run after him, these same protest organizers that had been blockading me and taunting me blockaded me again so that I could not run after him.
Did you fear for your life?
Yeah, they want you dead, so why shouldn't they execute that desire? And they're explicit about it, right? Like, globalize the Intifada is an explicit call for the global, genocide against Jewish people.
And I just want to take a step back for a second. What was campus life like at Yale before October 7th? How were you treated by some of the same people that you probably recognize from campus before October 7th?
Largely fine. I mean, it's just a matter of when you out yourself as a Jew that believes in your own right to live is when you get in trouble with them. I have a bunch of friends that I disagree with politically on multiple issues. After this, they just stopped making eye contact with me in the halls and on campus when I say hello to them. And it's so interesting because they don't address other issues this way. When it becomes a question of what's going on with Israel and also Israel and America, it's over. I mean, these people tore down the American flag a couple weeks ago while cheering "Viva Viva Filistina."
Yeah, it's really interesting that part about what. And the people that, like your former friends with whom you disagree politically, that now avert their eyes in shame when they see you. I mean, they may not say it's shame, but that's what it is.
Right.
And so, are they part of the protesting, or are they just the innocent bystanders, the appeasers who don't want to get involved?
No, these are the students that are involved.
They are
by
involved.
the way, like a lot of the school is involved.
Mm-hmm.
I see posts about these protests, supporting the protests, on like the undergraduate student social media forum, and we're talking like a third of the university, more than a third, actually liking these posts. So people really like this is one of the most popular causes I've ever seen on campus.
Well,
Ever.
have you thought about filing charges against the man who stabbed you in the eye? Has he been arrested, or what happened?
He's fully anonymized, excuse me, and so is everybody at these protests. Because the method here, and this is the method that happens everywhere, is you wear a keffiyeh, you cover your face. Everybody wears a keffiyeh and covers their face, and so everybody becomes nobody, and everybody becomes immune. And this is how you allow for an environment of violence and assault. And then, when an assault happens, you announce that it was not your organized leadership, but rather someone, quote, unaffiliated. And this is exactly how everybody becomes nobody and everybody becomes immune. If everybody who commits an act of assault or yells for genocide is, quote, unaffiliated, then you're not responsible for your own protest.
Wow. Well, are you thinking about any civil rights violations, filing any of that? Because clearly that's happening, not just to you, but to other Jewish students and campuses across the country.
Yeah, I mean, there are absolutely Title VI violations going on here left and right. The rules are just not being enforced against these students in a way that they would be enforced against other groups. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've seen that Yale does issue political opinionated statements and take political opinionated action on a lot of heated issues.
So, speaking of Yale at the leadership level, what about conversations with professors you know? Maybe administration officials. What are those groups doing, if anything?
So it sort of depends, right? Like there's a group of pro-Israel / pro-America professors that like took a solidarity trip to Israel over spring break, and they're great. But it's also a small group, right? That's like 20 or so professors. Meanwhile, you have more professors involved with faculty for justice in Palestine, or professors signing onto petitions that what goes on at these rallies is free speech. And those students that call for genocide, not just call for genocide, but also assault other students, intimidate, blockade, harass, accost, that they need to be protected by the university. And the administration cowers to them. I mean, admin is just not taking a serious stance here. And that's why every time they begin to shut down a rally, first, obviously, after giving it 3 days of, like, free reign and an encampment, finally, when they begin to shut it down, the kids come back the next day. This has already happened, and we've seen it happen. And it's because they know that they won't face serious repercussions.
Yeah, it's happening at University of Wisconsin-Madison. They tore down the encampment, and then, boom, they went back and set it straight back up again. So are you going to stay at Yale, or do you feel safe there?
No, to be honest, I don't. But I don't think I have any other choice. If I'm one of the few students here that's willing to speak out against this, then, like, what would it be doing to my Jewish peers and also to America in general to leave? Like, this is a university that provides us with a tremendous opportunity to be serious and good leaders. And if we leave that to the students that don't really think this country or our allies in the Middle East should exist, we're in big trouble.
Yeah, well said. You wrote a piece in the Free Press about what's happening at Yale, including the incident in which you were assaulted. And you made mention of something that I think needs more discussion, too. just in terms of sort of your personal background. Your mom emigrated here from Iran?
Yeah, she did. And I'm not the only person that drew the comparison. So when she was in Iran, there was a very popular habit among her Muslim neighbors of throwing rocks at people. And this was just common in the Middle East in general. And so somebody threw a rock in her left eye, and she has, is it her left eye? Someone threw a rock in her eye, and she has stitches to this day. It's such a crazy parallel. And I have other friends who are from, and their families are from Iran. And they know what, dictatorship looks like, and what, anti-democratic movements look like. And it looks like this. And that's what's so scary about it. Death to America, death to Israel is nothing new. I have a friend that grew up in Iran, and every day he would walk into school, and on the floor of the school, there were two flags, Israeli and American, so that you could step on them on the way in. And he grew up learning to deny the Holocaust. And then here at Yale, we have students, distributing flyers that say that Zionists were partially responsible for the Holocaust, or that one genocide does not justify another, as if to say that to this day, Jews use the Holocaust as an excuse to repeat the same thing against Palestinians, which is, of course, false, absurd, and minimizes the Holocaust itself, of which many of my relatives were killed.
Alumni. Is there any? I haven't seen really in the larger press. Has there been any alumni pushback? Notable alumni from Yale that are, inveighing on what's going on?
Again, not so much. And the reason why is because the school is not fully honest with their alumni about how much they're failing. They claim, hey, look, we're better than Columbia, we're better than
There's a standard.
They're really not. They're really not, and the bar is very low. And so they set that bar, and the alumni think, oh my gosh, the school must be doing great. And that's how everybody gets tricked into doing nothing.
Sahar Tartak. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I know I said they're being duped.
They're being duped, but I mean, at some point, you have to be willfully blind not to see what's happening. You don't have to be on campus to appreciate what's happening, right?
That too.
Sahar Tartak is a sophomore at Yale. She's student leader for the Chabad there, editor-in-chief of the Yale Free Press as well. Sahar, thanks so much for joining us, and take care of yourself, obviously, and good for you for standing up against this hateful mob on campus there.
Thank you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
This is the morning show more Chicago radio listeners are choosing. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Recent events have reminded us how fragile the stock market and your life savings can be. What would happen to you if you lost 30, 40, 50% or more in the market? It could likely destroy your quality of life and impact your plans for the future. Let this be a wake-up call to sit down and review your financial situation. Take control of your future today and call Wealth Management